Hey everyone, this is Cypher here. Welcome back, or welcome to my channel. So, I didn't want to have to do this, but it looks like we're doing two major updates back to back. So, of course, 8.2.0, which I already covered on the channel, that was my last video, that actually did come out a little over a month ago, in all fairness. But we've just got 8.3.0, I think about 2 days ago now as I'm recording this. First and foremost, before we get into it, I just want to quickly say thank you to everyone for the immense support on the last video. I really wasn't expecting that. We got over 3k views on that video. There was a lot of likes and some really cool comments as well, and also we gained like over 50 subs from that video alone. We hit 600 subscribers, which is mental, so I just wanted to quickly say thank you to everyone who subbed from that video, and hopefully you guys stick around. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys going forward under future videos, but I've still yet to do the Q&A that I announced for 500. I still haven't done that, and I put out the community post like months ago, but I might think of like reopening that Q&A announcement and doing it now for 600. I'll probably just reshare the old community post I made instead of making a new one, and when this video goes up I'll be sure to link it in the top pinned comments. If you guys want to go down there now, you can access that and leave a question or two if you have any for the Q&A. The rules are included there, and if the link doesn't work for whatever reason, you can just tap on my profile and go to the community area on my channel. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So of course today we're going to be taking a look at all of the changes that we got in the 8.3.0 update in Dead by Daylight. Because this is a mid-chapter patch, there is a lot to go through today, and it's mostly perk changes. So for killer perks, goddamn, they have done a lot here. So first and foremost, for Blood Echo, when hooking a survivor, all injured survivors suffer from hemorrhage and exhaustion for 20, 25, and 30 seconds now, which before was 45 seconds across the board. So it just looks like there they've reduced the time for one, but they've also made it a tiered value. And it also says that Blood Echo has a cooldown of 80, 70, 60 seconds. Sorry, no, it says that's been removed. So there is no cooldown now for that perk, which is kind of crazy. I don't know how that works now. I guess maybe the perk just activates whenever a survivor's hooked, right? So each time it'll just activate and there won't be that wait anymore after already using the perk. So that's nice. I guess you can get more value out of the perk more often. For Deadman Switch, when hooking a survivor, Deadman Switch activates. The first survivor that stops repairing a generator calls upon the entity to block it for 40, 45, 50 seconds, which before was 35, 40, and 45 seconds. So yeah, we got a buff there. That's nice. And Deadman Switch cannot activate while it is actively blocking a generator, which is a new feature. So basically all that's saying is that if you hook another survivor in the time whilst that perk is still active, it's not gonna like reactivate. It's not gonna restart the timer, essentially. You will have to wait for the first blockage on the generator to run out before you can then get value again. So that makes sense, obviously. But yeah, that's nice. For Deathbound, when a survivor heals another survivor, they scream and activate Deathbound. They've removed the distance requirement now. So apparently when the healer is further than 16, 12, or 8 meters from the survivor they healed, they are oblivious. This lasts until the healer loses a health state, which was 60 seconds before. There was a distance, I think it was if they're like more than 32 meters, or was it like 48? I don't remember how far it was, but there was basically a parameter as to how far the survivors would have to be from you to actually activate this effect, whilst now it just happens at any point that a survivor heals another survivor, which is crazy. So yeah, that's obviously a W for the killers who run this perk. And it also then incentivizes the survivors in a way to kind of do the whole teamwork power of two, I believe, kind of strategy with that whole Talita perk. I think it's Talita's perk. I'm not too sure. But yeah, it's giving off that kind of vibe, I suppose. It sounds to me like if the survivor leaves the area from the person they just healed, they are then oblivious, and that lasts until they lose a health state. So if they don't lose a health state, say the whole game, yeah, that's very interesting. For genetic limits, anytime a survivor loses a health state, they suffer from the exhausted status effect for 6, 7, or 8 seconds, which was upon finishing the healing action before and lasted for 24, 28, or 32 seconds. So that's fine. I don't know. I guess my best guess for this perk change would be that the perk lasted too long before and it would activate after doing a healing action, which if the survivor's nowhere near you, they could easily run out that timer. So I guess in a way now now it's a bit more useful because obviously upwards of 8 seconds after being hit in a chase is quite a bit of time, and if you can't activate an exhaustion perk in that time like Dead Hard or DS, then you're kind of screwed in a sense. Just seems that they've obviously switched out the actual functionality of it, maybe so that you can get more value out of it as a killer, because the survivors can just heal somewhere discreet and then run out that 30-second exhaustion timer. And so now it's more chase oriented and you can probably run it with more perks. Anyway, moving on to Hex crowd control. The last 3, 4, or 5 vaults that survivors rush vault are blocked by the entity, which was 14, 17, and 20 seconds before. So it seems like before it was just whenever you vaulted something, it would get blocked for that time period, depending on the perk rarity. Whilst now, well, actually, it does say below it, this lasts until the Hex totem is cleansed. So until you get rid of crowd control, that vault's going to be blocked, I'm guessing. I don't know if that blocks it for all survivors or if it's just for that specific survivor, but it's now obviously got a tiering based on the amount of vaults rather than the time period that the perk lasts for. I don't use this perk a whole lot. I've used it quite a bit, I suppose, with perks like Cruel Limits and what's that other perk? Blood Favor, I think it is. Especially because you've got to pretty much scour the whole map for the totem in order to get rid of this effect. I'd actually say that that's a buff there. It's now going to last a lot longer, because think about how long it can take sometimes to find the totem that has this effect on it. I mean, obviously, granted, you could have your survivors be a lookout as well. If you're in a Swift, they could go and cleanse it for you, and if it's right next to them, then it's gone like that. But if we're talking about that individual survivor having to hunt down that totem and get rid of it, that could take a lot longer than the time parameters that were attached to it before. I think that's actually a relatively good change. For leverage, when a survivor performs the unhook action, their healing speed is reduced by 30, 40, or 50% for 30 seconds, which was token-based before and was 3, 4, and 5%. So I think this is a buff, if I'm not wrong, because before, for each token you got, it would reduce the healing speed by 5%. So I think if you got up to, say, 10 tokens, it would go up to like 50%. It used to gain strength as the match went on, meaning that it would only really become effective once the match was nearly already over. And so now you can get more value out of it during other parts of the game instead of having to have that slow build up over the trial with the tokens. And it also says on their developer update website that the perk now discourages survivors from healing directly under the hook. I'm not sure why. I guess maybe because if you actually run off somewhere to heal, that's, you know, like in that 30-second timer run down instead of immediately healing, which is obviously going to affect the healing speed. So that's fine. I don't have an issue with that, really. Moving on to machine learning. When damaging a generator, it becomes compromised. Only one generator can be compromised at a time. They've removed the requirement to activate this perk. When a compromised generator is completed, you become undetectable and gain 10% haste for 40, 50, and 60 seconds. This effect cannot stack. I'm just going to quickly look up actually what the requirement was. It says that the requirement before was that you had to damage one generator to activate it and then another to compromise it. And I don't remember that too well, but to simplify it, they've basically made it that the most recent generator will always be compromised when you damage it. So that's obviously good, and it doesn't seem like they've changed anything else there, so I'm fine with that. For Predator, when a survivor escapes a chase, reveal their aura for 6 seconds. This is a new feature apparently for this perk, and Predator has a 60, 50, and 40-second cooldown, which is new. So before it didn't have a cooldown, it was something that could just be activated every time a survivor escaped a chase, whilst now you're going to have to wait. So they've nerfed it there. I didn't use this perk anyway, so I can't really say I care too much. Anyway, moving on to THWACK. Another Skull Merchant perk apparently has been updated. So THWACK starts with 3 tokens now, which is a new feature. When breaking a pallet or breakable wall, you consume a token, which is also new. And survivors within 24 meters scream, revealing their location for 3, 4, or 5 seconds, which was 28, 30, or 32 meters before, and 4 seconds. So it was a 4-second time across the board just for all rarities of the perk, but it had a distance tiering to it rather than a duration tiering, if that makes sense. And then when hooking a survivor, you regain 1 token. So now what it seems like is whenever you break anything that's breakable on the map, you will be able to reveal the survivors who are within 24 meters for that time period of 5 seconds at most. But if you aren't doing so well that match and you aren't hooking enough survivors, say if you only got like 2 hooks, you're only going to regain like 2 tokens. You know, when you've had like a really bad game and you're not really getting many hooks in, you're going to get the value from breaking the pallets and breakable walls, but you're not going to get the tokens back, meaning you won't be able to get further value. But that's actually a buff, because now you can stack those tokens and you can save them up for later in the trial, and you can get value multiple times in one chase. You could break one pallet, go to another loop and break that pallet, whilst before it would only activate once per hook, and sometimes there weren't any survivors within range of you, meaning that the perk in many scenarios would go to waste and you wouldn't get a whole lot of use out of it overall. So yeah, this is a good change. Finally, for Zanshin tactics, you reveal the aura of pallets and windows within 32 meters. They've apparently removed breakable walls from this, so I guess that's fine because you don't really need to know the aura of the breakable walls, right? I mean, if you're trying to blood point farm, obviously, if I'm trying to get in that extra XP before the match ends, I do like to know where the breakable walls are too, so I can break those, but it's not a big deal. I mean, really, the pallets and windows are the main concern because you want to know where the survivors are going to be faulting, not the breakable walls, because they don't really serve any purpose, to be honest, apart from blocking off certain areas of the map a bit, but you know. And survivors who drop pallets are revealed to you for 6, 7, or 8 seconds, which is a new feature for this perk, so that's kind of cool. All of that to say, those are some good changes in there. If you guys feel very strongly about any of those, let me know. Moving over to survivor perks. Okay, so first and foremost, for Bloodrush, I believe this is the perk for Renato. After being unhooked, Bloodrush activates for the next 40, 50, and 60 seconds. Whilst suffering from exhausted, press the active ability button 1 to recover from exhausted instantly. Bloodrush deactivates when used or when performing a conspicuous action, and Bloodrush is disabled once the exit gates are powered. So it doesn't actually list on there what the change is. It doesn't say anything was removed or added. So from looking it up, it seems that there's quite a few changes that have happened here. So this perk did originally used to heal you if you were injured. You could click the button and not only would it remove your exhaustion, but it would afflict you with broken for a certain amount of time and then it would heal you completely. That has been completely stripped from the perk now, so it's literally only used for getting rid of exhaustion. Another thing that they didn't really mention on the patch notes site is that it deactivating upon performing a conspicuous task or the exit gates being powered, those are both new changes that they didn't seem to highlight on the patch notes. And now, instead of the perk activating when you're one hook away from death, it now activates for the tiered time limit, obviously depending on the perk rarity, after any time you are unhooked or unhook yourself. So it's changed quite a lot, and I guess before it did have a lot of kind of conditions around how it worked, but for me, I barely ever used this, and in the rare occasion that I did, I wanted to use it because of the healing element as well. But now that that's gone, yeah, this seems a little bit boring to me. I mean, granted, it's not completely useless, obviously. Being afflicted with exhausted could make all the difference in you dying and not being able to get away in certain situations where you might actually need a second chance perk to save yourself. And it's arguably better now that it can activate anytime you're unhooked, and you can just click a button and get rid of exhausted immediately at any point in a 60-second span that it could be applied to you. That's obviously great. I feel like it's technically a buff in that regard, but as to removing the healing aspect, it's kind of slightly nerfed. I don't know how to feel about this one, to be fair. I know there's obviously other perks you can use instead, like Plot Twist. You can just down yourself and then fully heal after recovering. Second Wind is another one, although that does only apply to after being unhooked or unhooking yourself. Is a little bit of an L, but let me know though what you guys think. Moving on to Corrective Action. You start the trial with 1, 2, or 3 tokens, depending on the rarity of the perk, and gain a token up to a maximum of 5 for every great skill check. When a survivor fails a normal skill check, 1 token is consumed and their failed skill check becomes a good skill check, which apparently this part of the perk was for cooperative repairs only. So I guess that's like when you're performing a cooperative task with another person, like healing or doing a generator. I just checked the DBD wiki. Apparently now this perk will apply to anybody on the map who is having to complete skill checks, and it isn't limited just to the one task that anyone is working on with you. And it says additionally, you reveal that aura for 6, 6, and 6 seconds. They just left the mark of the beast there, holy shit, which is a new feature as well. I don't really know what the point of that is, to reveal the aura of whoever missed the skill check. I suppose it's nice to know, right, who on the map is using up the tokens when they're fucking up the skill checks, but part of me just wonders if this will like incentivize endgame chat bullying more. Like people will just go off at the person who continuously messed up and took away value for everyone else. I don't know, but there you go, they've added that. And a small change that they didn't list on the patch notes is that apparently they updated the perk icon to make the skill check icon behind Jonah more prominent. So yeah, they didn't note that for whatever reason. I guess it's not really that relevant, but I just thought I'd point that out too. For Distortion, you start with 1 token, which was 3 before, so that got nerfed there. And when your aura would be red, you consume a token and hide your scratch marks and aura for the next 8, 10, or 12 seconds, which was 6, 8, or 10 seconds before. So we got a buff there in terms of how long your scratch marks and aura are hidden for, but the only downside is that you have less tokens to start off with, and apparently for each 30 seconds spent in a chase, you gain 1 token up to 2, which before was while hiding in the terror radius that you'd get those tokens. So it's kind of pushing you now to be a bit less of a pussy, you know, not just hiding in the terror radius of the killer. You now have to get a bit more engaged, and you're gonna have to do some chases. If you're easily scared, well, this is probably an L change for you guys. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you, but come on, you guys are brave. You got this. Just go out there and stop fucking hiding from them. God damn it, I hate people who hide from the killer. That annoys me. The fact that they extended the scratch mark and aura hiding is good, obviously. Moving on to inner focus, you can see other survivors' scratch marks, and whenever another survivor loses a health state, the killer's aura is revealed to you for 6, 8, or 10 seconds, and they've removed the range condition before, so I'm guessing before you'd get to see the killer's aura depending on the range that they are from you. For whatever length of time, it would be based on how far they are from you, I'm guessing. Again, it doesn't list on here exactly, so that's just my guess because I never really use inner focus, but yeah, I guess now you can get use out of that perk much more often now, regardless of where the killer is on the map, so that's nice. For Lucky Star, when you hide a locker, it says, that's nice grammar there, devs. When you hide in a locker, I'm sure it meant to say, you make no grunts of pain. After exiting the locker, you see the aura of the closest generator, all survivors, and make no grunts of pain nor leave blood pools for 30 seconds, which was 10 seconds before. So we got a buff there, that's nice. And Lucky Star goes on cooldown for 40, 35, and 30 seconds. So I think the only change they did there was the amount of time that you gain this aura value and obviously have no grunts of pain and blood pools. So I can't complain, that's good. You know, we got a 20-second buff there, that's nice. Poised, when first starting repairs on a generator, you reveal the killer's aura for 6 seconds. This is apparently new. After a generator is completed, you leave no scratch marks for 10, 12, and 14 seconds, which was 6, 8, and 10 seconds before, so that also got buffed there. And the fact that you get that killer aura as well is a nice extra incentive there, so I think that's a good change. A quick Gambit, the perk that nobody uses because it's completely and utterly useless. When you are being chased, see the aura of other survivors. It says they removed the range condition again with this perk, so I think what it's saying is that you would see the aura of the survivors probably close to you, like within your range, whilst now you just get to see the survivor auras in general. Survivors working on any generator gain 3, 4, or 5% repair speed boost, which is 6, 7, and 8% before, so they've nerfed it. I'm just going to finish reading it, you know, before I say how I feel about that, but Quick Gambit now goes on cooldown for 60, 60, and 60 seconds, so it's just essentially the same across all rarities when you lose a health state, which is new. So yeah, essentially if you do get injured at any point whilst being chased by the killer, you are going to lose the value and you're going to have to wait a minute for it to come back again. Yeah, I have to say for those first 2 points, that is not good because yeah, you see the aura of all survivors generally now, like you don't have like a distance attached to which auras you can see, but now it's worse because you get even less value. Why would you want this? Like, yeah, now you can see all auras, and so say if a survivor's on the other end of the map, you could take the killer closer to a gen on the other end of the map because now you have the knowledge of where that survivor is on that generator, right? You could go to any generator that survivors are on now because you can see all of them, but now you get less value. It gives less repair speed boost than it did before, and the perk was already shit before, so I think this is a bad change personally. I don't think it's made the perk really much better at all. Fine, you can see more auras now, but you also have a cooldown now, and the generator repair percentage is lower, so there's even less incentive really to run it now. They've just nerfed that shit into the ground. So for Teamwork Collective Stealth, after being healed by another survivor, you both leave no scratch marks as long as you stay within 8, 12, and 16 meters. I did actually mention this perk earlier on. I think this is the perk I meant to mention, not the Power of 2. It's the Collective Stealth perk, so my bad. But yeah, what they've done is they've removed the cooldown, and it was 12 meters before, so it's now got a tier rating depending on the rarity of the perk, and now you can have that no scratch marks within that range anytime you are healed by another survivor now, instead of having to wait for the cooldown to run out before you can then get value again the next time you're healed. So that's nice. You can get the perk value more often, and obviously obviously, once you get the perk to purple, you get 4 more meters of distance between you and the survivor maximum than you did before when it was 12 across the board. So that's nice. I can't complain with that. This effect lingers for 4 seconds when leaving the range, which is a new feature that they didn't have before. And the effect does not stack. I think that's the same as before. So yeah, now you're not going to suddenly lose that value as soon as you go out of range. It's actually going to give you the effect for 4 seconds. And I guess maybe that could be like an indicator of, oh shit, I'm running out of range. I need to run back into range again to actually get the value back again. I'm assuming that's how it's going to work. I don't know if it will just continue the 4-second timer and then completely just you'll lose the value, or if it will just fully fill up back to active again if you come back into range. I'm not sure, but either way, that sounds like a good change to me. So then for Teamwork Power of 2, the one that I did mention earlier that I was actually incorrectly referring to, when you finish healing another survivor, you both gain 5% haste as long as you stay within 8, 12, and 16 meters. Okay, so it is actually relatively similar to the one I was actually referring to, because they both have this whole thing about staying within range, but this stays active for 8, 12, and 16 meters, which before was 12 meters as well across the board like the other perk. And they've also removed the cooldown for this perk too, so you can get that 5% haste after healing another survivor more often instead of having to wait for the cooldown to run out. This effect lingers for 4 seconds when leaving the range. This is also new on this perk as well, and the effect does not stack. So yeah, the changes are exactly identical there for both of those teamwork perks. Or We're Gonna Live Forever, finally. When healing another survivor in the dying state, your healing speed is increased by 150% now, which was 100% before. When completing the heal action, it grants them the endurance status effect for 6, 8, and 10 seconds. This effect has a 30-second cooldown, and apparently they removed the list of conditions required to trigger this effect. I don't know what those are, and I really don't care to look them up. You know, actually we will. We'll just look it up real quick. Okay, so apparently there isn't even a list of requirements. There was just one thing that they removed, and that is that the endurance effect no longer needs to be activated manually. I don't know why that was even a thing before anyway. That's kind of dumb that the person who's healing the other survivor has to click a button to activate the endurance. That's stupid, to be fair. So now it just applies it as soon as the person's been healed, and the cooldown, just to be more specific, only applies to the endurance effect. I think that was kind of obvious because it says on the patch notes that that effect has the cooldown. I just wanted to specify that because it doesn't apply to the healing speed increase that you get with this perk. Don't really have too many thoughts on this, but that's great. So moving on now to killer updates. For the Hillbilly with his base kit, they've decreased the overdrive dissipation buffer to 8 seconds from 15. They've decreased the overdrive chainsaw sprint speed to 12 meters per second, which was 13 meters per second. They've decreased the overdrive charges gained when revving to 1.5 per second, which was 2 per second before. They've decreased the overdrive charges gained when sprinting to 1.5 per second, which was 2 per second as well before. And they've increased the chainsaw miss cooldown to 2.7 seconds, which was 2.5 seconds before. So we've got quite a few tiny nerfs there to his base kit. I don't really play Hillbilly, so this doesn't affect me, but as for his add-ons, with the discarded air filter, they've decreased the rarity to common, which was rare before. For the high-speed idler screw, they decreased the rarity to uncommon, which was very rare before. For the dad's boots, they've increased the rarity to rare from common, and it increases the chainsaw sprint turn rate by 20% now, which was 30%. Now, considering they didn't do any changes to his turn rate in the base kit, that's obviously just a nerf there that they've done there. So that's not a balancing thing. That's just generally them wanting to nerf that perk because maybe they thought the turn rate was too good before. For the spiked boots, they've increased the rarity to very rare from uncommon, which it was before, and it increases the chainsaw sprint turn rate by 30% now, which was 45% before. Like the other add-on, clearly they thought that the turn rate was too good, so they just lowered it. And for the low pro chains, chainsaw hits within 5 seconds of breaking a pallet inflict deep wound on injured survivors instead of the dying state like before. So if you're already injured, instead of going down now, you'll be put into the deep wound, which I think is fair because considering that this add-on allows you to shred through pallets or breakable walls and still continue your chainsaw sprint, it would be unfair if you could still down injured survivors using the chainsaw. There should be some kind of drawback, obviously, because then otherwise, why not use the add-on all the time? If it's so good, you know, there's not any like downsides to it, it's going to feel kind of unfair. I guess in a way meta, right? People are going to feel more inclined to use it. Taking a look at the add-ons, it seems that they were just generally balanced. They didn't really have much to do with the base kit. It looks like the ones that were bumped up in rarity were probably very strong, and so they needed to be a bit more harder to access in the blood web. And the top two, which got tiered down in rarity, which are both to do with the chainsaw's decay delay. I'm pretty sure they just did that to make the add-ons more accessible. But yeah, generally speaking, I don't really have too many thoughts on all of these. It just seems like they've nerfed the Hillbilly because they figured he was too strong. And I do have to say, when he got that whole rework, he did feel very powerful, and I think this just makes him a little less, which is fine by me. For the Skull Merchant, for her base kit, I can already say going into this, I don't really care what they do to her because she's just an unredeemable killer. She just isn't good. But the Skull Merchant no longer gains haste from survivors having a claw trap. That's fine because there's so many haste effects that she got before. Now, I know they probably removed a lot of them, but there was an update they did in the past where she'd just get loads of haste effects from add-ons or just from different things. So like survivors entering the zone. I can't really complain here that they've removed the haste effect from her power. It was kind of unnecessary anyway, but I mean, if you're a Skull Merchant main, I mean, for starters, what is wrong with you? But second of all, yeah, you're probably the only people who care about this, honestly. Survivors who are fast vaulting can no longer be detected by drones. That's fair, I guess, because if they're vaulting out of the zone, maybe it's now saying that they're less likely to get picked up, which is whatever, I suppose. Drones are always in the active state now, which is a new functionality. So what does that mean? Because I don't think you had to activate them before, if I'm not wrong. They made it that as soon as you put them up, they were active, right? Until somebody comes along and hacks them, and then they disable momentarily. But yeah, it says they're always in the active state now, so I'm not really sure what difference that is from before. Maybe I'm remembering incorrectly, but I don't know. They've decreased the number of scan lines to 1 now, which was 2. So that's kind of bad. So it's just made it even harder now for the scans to pick up the survivors. That's a little bit dumb, but whatever. Drone scan lines are only visible within 60 meters now, which is a new feature as well. The Skull Merchant gains 5% haste for 8 seconds when scanning a survivor within 5 seconds of deploying a drone or changing a drone's rotation, which is also new. I've never understood the whole changing the drone rotation. That to me seems completely useless. Like, I know if you do rotate it, that could just pick up a survivor, but I've never found myself changing the rotation whilst I'm playing. Like, it's just not a concern to me. I just throw them down and just leave. Like, I don't really care. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I just feel like that's such a dumb feature in the first place. I suppose maybe there could be some instances where from afar it might not be picking up somebody, and if you just turn it slightly one direction, it might make all the difference. But essentially all they did is they removed haste from one area of her base kit, and then they just applied it here instead. So they've increased the drone's rotation speed to 95 degrees per second, which was 85. You know what? If we're gonna have this stupid feature in the first place to rotate the fucking drones, thank God, yes, add a buff to that, because it was slow as hell before. When you were holding the button to rotate it, it would turn so slowly. So yeah, giving it like a 10% increase is fine by me, because I never use it anyway. Maybe now if I ever do play a once in a blue moon, then that rotation speed increase might be nice. I don't know. I can't really tell you. They've decreased the hindered penalty. Sorry, by the way, I was told last video that I'm pronouncing that word wrong. I don't know why, but apparently it's pronounced hindered. I'm a dumbass, so thank you to the 3 or 4 people who pointed that out under my last video. It decreases the hindered penalty when scanned while having a claw trap to 8%, which was 10% before. You know what? 10% hinderation is quite a lot, so, you know, if they want to knock 2% off that, that's fine, I guess. They decreased the survivor immunity period after being scanned to 2.5 seconds, which was 3 before. That's not really a huge difference, but whatever. And then finally, for the base kit, they decreased the Skull Merchant's movement speed when deploying a drone or inspecting her radar to 4.4 meters per second, which is new. Now, I don't remember the movement speed for her character in general. Isn't it like 4.6? I think that's like the average, isn't it? There's like a tiny slowdown there. Like I say, it's the Skull Merchant. Who fucking cares? She's already got a pretty lame ability, which sucks to say because I like the whole drone concept. It's just a shame that it wasn't fleshed out so well and it's had to have so many changes to it over time. But for the Skull Merchant's add-ons, with the ultrasonic speaker, it decreases immunity period by 10%, which was 25 before. Holy shit, okay. So that perk got nerfed by a solid 15% there. That's, okay. And then for the vital targeting processor, it increases the hindered from scans by 2%, which was 3% before. And then finally, for the expired batteries, all survivors start the trial with a claw trap, which has 50% normal battery life. Claw trap battery life increases by 10% for each claw trap received, up to 150%, and it's says, note, after the initial claw trap of 50%, the next claw trap starts at 100% battery life. Moving on to the twins, for the base kit, we got 2 changes here, so that's nice and sweet. They increased the cooldown when Victor is crushed to 20 seconds, which was 15 seconds before. And then they increased the cooldown when Victor downs a survivor to 3.2 seconds, which was 2.7 seconds before. So yeah, we got 2 nerfs there. And then with the unknown, they did some base kit changes. So they've decreased the teleport movement speed recovery to 1.4 seconds, which was 1.7 before. So it's less time. That's fine, I suppose. It's not a huge difference, 0.3 seconds, but it moved the survivor body texture effect from UVX airborne hits to successful UVX weakened hits. And it says weakened survivors should now have more visual information to track if they have become or are still afflicted by weakened. They've updated the sound effect for UVX airborne hits to sound more neutral overall. I'm not sure what the problem was there before. They updated the Unknown's killer power icon with the new smaller icons to better show mechanics and cooldowns. I hate that I'm saying whatever a lot in this video, but really, like, none of that means a whole lot to me, and it doesn't change up my thoughts on the killer too much. So for the add-ons, finally, with the blurry photo after teleporting, regain full movement speed 15% faster, which was 50% faster before. They nerfed that shit so hard. What the heck? 35% reduction. Wow. I know 50% maybe might have been a bit radical, you know, before. That's kind of mad, but that's obviously an L change. And then for the Vanishing Box add-on, survivors who complete generators become weakened against UVX, and it increases the hallucination spawn time by 80%. Apparently that part of the change is new. I feel like the hallucination spawn time is relatively slow, and I know obviously if it was quicker you'd have loads of them everywhere, so it's obviously fair, but I like that they've added that there. That's cool. But overall, I don't really have any thoughts on the unknown changes. There isn't anything really there that means much to me. Finally, we are out of all of the killer and perk changes. My god, guys, you guys have no idea. This video is an hour and 11 minutes right now. I don't know how the fuck it's gotten to this point, but I waffle a lot, right? So for you guys, it should only be like 20-30 minutes maybe, but because I'm actually on time with this update for once, for the events and archives, I actually have a use in mentioning this, I suppose. So level 1 of Tome 21 Dominus opened on October 8th at 11 AM Eastern time. Now, I don't normally read out the events and archives, I just brush over them because I'm usually like a month late at that point, in which there's not really much point in mentioning it. But yes, we did just get Tome 21 Dominus, and there is a really cool skin that came out. I think it's at the end, but it's a really cool looking skin for the Dracula, and I'm hoping to unlock that as soon as I can. I'm going to try and grind for that Rift Pass and then hopefully make a video showing off that skin because it looks so badass, and apparently it's got its own Mori and voice lines and stuff, so I'm really curious to test that out. But yeah, the Tome's out if you didn't already know that, and the Rift is out too, so go check those out, guys. I have to say, the new Rift, whilst I'm at it, is so good. Compared to the last one, which was fucking ass, and you can't even debate me on it. Like, the last Rift Pass was stale. Like, there was like barely any good rewards in there. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I think it was bad, but this one's good. So I'm a happy boy. I'm definitely gonna buy this one. But we've waffled enough there. You guys don't care. It's the events and archives. Let's move on to the map updates. For Springwood, they added a window in the dead end generator room as a new escape option for survivors. Now, the dead end room is the one on the top floor, if I'm not mistaken, right? The one where you just walk in and there's just that one generator, right? One side, and that's it. You have to leave through that door. Thank God they added a window there. That's great. It's such a small, minute change, but it makes all the difference, because if you go in that room and you're doing that one generator and you are stupid enough not to leave when you hear the killer terror radius, Lord forbid that it's, you know, a stealth killer, but if the killer comes in there, they could just stand in the doorway and it's like, well, I'm fucked. Goodbye, I guess. I'm going on the hook, because you have no chance at that point. You're just dead. You're not going to be able to leave the room, but now there's a window there. You got an escape route. That's awesome. Okay, finally, moving on to features. The Cypress Mori is now included as part of the killer's base kit abilities. What? Giving the killer the ability to Mori the last survivor alive in a trial. Oh, that's okay. That explains so much, right? I was just playing a game last night whilst trying to get gameplay for this video, and I was just like able to Mori the survivor, and I was thinking, I don't have a pink Mori on, or any Mori for that matter. I don't have any perks that allow me to kill by hand, so I was really fucking confused. I was like, why am I able to just Mori like this last survivor just out of nowhere? I was so confused. Now it all makes sense. They've added the ability to Mori the last survivor, and even though I'm inclined to say the that that's nice because I like being able to Mori survivors, you know, Moris are cool, and the ability to just get rid of the last survivor is awfully convenient. I think if I'm looking at this level-headedly and in a rational manner, this isn't a good change, because that last survivor could get downed, right? But they could have boil over, which could make a huge difference, say if they're on a top floor or somewhere that's far from a hook, right? That could make all the difference before they get off and then look for the hatch. They could have a perk like flip-flop or literally any other perk that gives them advantage to get off the killer's back. So the fact that now they can just get killed off and don't have a chance, I don't know how I feel about that. As much as I love Moris, that's very questionable. But anyway, Cyprus Mori offerings will be retired now. So 1 million blood points will be offered to players, which must be claimed prior to 11 a.m. Eastern time on November 7th. Goodbye, Cyprus Moris. It's been nice knowing you, I suppose, even though you're virtually useless, just getting one small Mori at the end of the trial. I think it was better off as a offering rather than a base kit ability. That I'm not really with at all, but hey, 1 mil blood points, can't complain with that, I suppose. The match detail screen now shows the connection status of the killer player as well as the normal survivor players. So I guess maybe this is just giving you a bit more insight into other people's Wi-Fi. So if they have like Wi-Fi that looks like it came straight out of fucking Pakistan, then you're gonna know, oh, it's the killer who's making the game bug out, or they're the one who might potentially cause a disconnect if it spikes too bad, right? Finally! Oh my god, this video's been going on for so long. The final change, players can preview Moris at the Rift Pass. We've got some very good changes in there. Some of those are major and are great, and some are really bad. But all in all, I think that's a very interesting update. Let me know what you guys think of anything discussed in this video. I'd be very intrigued to know. With that being said, be sure to smash the like button down below if you enjoyed, to let me know. It would really help the video out in the algorithm. Also, if you haven't done so already, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you never miss a single video of mine. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, I appreciate all the support I've been getting recently. You guys are awesome, and I shall catch you all in my next video. Goodbye.